So in order to enable the maintenance mode for the electronic parking brake, so you can work on the rear brakes, is to push down on the lever here for the parking brake. Push down and hold it, and push down and hold the accelerator and turn the ignition to on. So as you turn the ignition to on, I believe that within 5 seconds you turn the ignition off, and then within 5 seconds turn the ignition back on, and the e-brake should start flashing now. Then once you hear that dinging, you can let go of the accelerator and the lever. Now you can see the amber with the arrow, the zigzag arrow. This indicates that the vehicle is in park brake maintenance mode. So once it's in the park brake maintenance mode, you're all good to go. You're able to work on the rear brakes now. Just after, when you're finished working on the rear brakes, do not forget to disable the maintenance mode, because if you don't disable the maintenance mode, there's a possibility that you could damage the electronic calipers. So I'm just gonna remove the caliper. We'll need to get something to hold that. Being careful to not damage the boot here. Very slight uneven wear. Still a little bit of pads left. Just going to put it in there for the time being. Just gonna have a look at the rotor here, see if there's anything going on. I forgot to mention earlier that if you are pushing the pistons in, just make sure that if the brake fluid reservoir is near full, you probably will need to suck some of the brake fluid out before you push the pistons. Otherwise, the brake fluid will spill everywhere. So I'm at the other side here, and these pads are kind of like jammed in there, and piston or the pins, they seemed like they were binding up. So yeah, slider pins are pretty much almost seized in there, and the pads are like jammed inside here. There's still quite a bit of friction material left, but I'm gonna call a brake service here and maybe replace the rotors and pads because it's causing problems while driving this vehicle. So now we're gonna proceed to do the rear brakes. I got the approval by the customer, so we are just going to clean everything up. This one is the side where the pin was like a little bit seized up. So we are going to clean everything up here and service the brakes. So we are going to clean the hub and everything. So now you want to remove these clips here and get them out of the way. Use a screwdriver or whatever. And clean the contact points here and where the pads sits. I'm going to clean all the rust. You want to be careful to not sand down or clean too much here, because otherwise it will cause problems. Now this piece, the caliper bracket, you're able to detach it from the knuckle here, but I don't think it's entirely necessary to remove it. You can probably keep this bracket on here and just service it while it's on the vehicle. I'm going to clean the top one as well. So now, if you guys don't have a die grinder like this of some sort, you can just use a cheap wire brush to clean the rust off like this if you want. And just do that. But for more heavy rust, you may need to use something to sand down the contact points and to clean it up. Now, I was saying earlier that if you want to, you can remove the caliper bracket, but I choose to leave it in there because it's not necessary to take it off on this model. So you can just leave this on here because you're just gonna create extra work, all for nothing. So now I'm just gonna use the wire wheel just to clean a little bit. Want to make sure you get down to all of the sides and the angles in here too. Make sure that the corners are cleaned up properly, because it's possible that could cause issues. You want to make sure you get inside the corners here. If there's a lot of rust buildup, and over here, clean everything down. So once you're done the cleaning, you want to wash everything down with a brake cleaner. And also take note that there's an ABS wheel speed sensor here. You want to make sure you want to clean that too. It's part of doing the brake job right here. If there's any like flakes of metal or anything, you probably won't want to use like a shop towel and to wipe down any excess metal that may be there. So you want to wash it down, because sometimes that if there's pieces of dirt and flakes of metal there, it will cause the ABS to have an erratic signal. So you want to make sure that you clean that off properly. Forgot to mention that you want to clean the rust inside the caliper here. Clean all the dirt here. You want to do all the cleaning first before you install the new parts. So now we're just going to clean the rust on the pins. We also want to remove the rubber here and clean the inside as well. So I have the Permatex silicone brake lubricant. So we're going to use that. You could use the silicone stuff if you want. Whatever is approved for caliper pins. I'm going to slide this piece of rubber here. You could call new pins and install new pins if you want, but I just decided to reuse these. I don't see anything wrong with these, so unless they're badly rotted and and pitted, then you probably should replace them. I'm probably going to clean the inside of the caliper bracket because it's pretty rusty in there. So I'm going to set this aside. The boot is extremely dirty here. I'm gonna clean this. So we're just going to clean the bottom one here. Use a brush attachment. I want to be careful to not get anything jammed inside there. So you might have to use a thin screwdriver to get everything out. I'm not going too fast because I don't want it to break inside the bore of the caliper bracket. And we can do the same for the top. Make sure you don't mix the caliper pins up. So the one with the bottom stays at the bottom, the one for the top stays at the top. We're going to use brake cleaner to clean the bore and the inside. So you can use a screwdriver and make sure it's clean in the inside. You can also use a flashlight to look inside just to make sure it's clean and there's no dirt or debris inside there. Now because I didn't take off the caliper bracket, I'm just going to use a blowgun to to get rid of any excess of the brake cleaner. Now I'm just going to use the caliper lube and try to put some inside here on both ends. So now we're going to install the bottom pin here. You may need to add some more grease so that it can slide freely. Now I have the top pin here that was on the top. It does not need as much cleaning as the other one did. And some lube here on the pin. You may need to add some more lubricant so that the pin can slide in freely after cleaning the bore of the bracket. You will need to work it through. And that should be okay for now. At the very end, I'm gonna take out any excess grease that may be in there, because if you put too much grease, it's going to cause an airlock. And what that does is that it could make the vehicle pull onto one side, depending on which side has the airlock. So I'll talk to you about that later on. So now we want to lubricate the contact points in which the pads are going to sit in. You know what? I'm gonna use the other type of grease that I normally use. I just don't use them on the slider pins, because I've had issues with the other type of caliper grease. They tend to dry up on the pins, so I don't use them. But it may work for you. It may not. But that's what I've had in my experience. So I'm going to use the orange stuff here because it's high temperature grease. So we're going to install the clips. I took note that this was on the outside here, pointing upwards. So we're going to install it like this. I'm going to do the other one. So now we're going to lubricate the clips here. I'm going to spray some of the fluid film lubricant on the hub. You can put some anti-seize if you want. Now I'm going to compare my parts. I checked them earlier, and you should always check your parts first to make sure you have the correct parts, because the last thing you want to do is find out that you have the wrong parts. So make sure you compare them side to side. Make sure everything is right. And the pads as well. You want to make sure you have the right pads. We are going to give this a quick wipe with brake cleaner. The reason why you need to clean the rotors with brake cleaner is because the manufacturers, they apply a little bit of an anti-rust coating or some rust proofing coating on the rotor to prevent the rotor from rusting while it's in during shipment and during the packaging. So you want to make sure you clean the rotor down. Some rotors, they may have like a coating on it, and the manufacturer of the rotor may say to not apply brake cleaner directly on the rotor. I don't think it's a big deal, but I just apply some on the shop towel and wipe down the rotor. Now you want to make sure that you do this, because if you don't do this, then you're going to contaminate the friction material on the brake pads. So you want to make sure that you clean the rotor well. So we'll install the rotor now. I'm just going to install this wheel stud installer tool. Or you can use a used axle nut. It's just to hold the rotor in place as you are doing the brake job. So you don't have to go through the entire thread, the threads on the studs. So you can use an impact if you want to temporarily install a lug nut to make the brake job easier. Now what I like to do, I like to use this Permatex disc brake quiet to spray on the backing of the pads. It will help to prevent this will help to prevent caliper hopping and any excess movement of the caliper in the pad. So it will help to quiet down any noise. And this is also good if you're having issues with problem vehicles with brake noise. Sometimes using this can help. It dampens the noise. You don't want to spray too much. Let this sit for 5 to 10 minutes so it can dry up before you install the pads. Now you want to take note that on these pads, if you notice, it says up. So you want to make sure you point this in the upwards direction when you install these. So either this would be in the back like this, pointing up, or you would have it like this. See, the arrow is pointing upwards. So you need to watch out for that. So now we're gonna install the brake pads. I lubricated the inboard pad. If you notice, it says up, so you gotta make sure it's in the upwards position when you install these. So I'm gonna install this one here. Like so. Now we're gonna lubricate the other one, the ears on the brake pad. Like so. Just make sure it says up when you install the pads here. Now we're gonna install a caliper. Earlier I forgot to say that you probably want to use a thin screwdriver before you push the piston in to check for any brake fluid leakage. So usually just use a thin screwdriver and to lift up the dust boot to see if there's any brake fluid. If there's any brake fluid, then you would need to replace the caliper. These calipers are the electronic calipers. You need to enable the electronic parking brake after the service is done. I'll show you that after we are finished here. So we're going to install the caliper now. Just make sure that when you install the caliper that the brake hose is not twisted in any way, shape, or form. Otherwise that will cause problems. You just got to make sure that you push the pins all the way in so that you're able to seat the caliper through. Now we're going to install the caliper bolts. I like to lubricate it with a little bit of the silver anti-seize. If the threads are rusted, you probably want to clean them with a wire wheel first and then reinstall the bolts. I already did the other side, and the other side seems to be a little bit easier than this side, but otherwise they are relatively the same thing. I'm gonna have to use a vice grip on this one just to hold it. I will put up the torque spec for these on the screen, as well as the caliper mounting bolts, in case if you guys want to remove the bracket. But the torque spec for me is the German method, nice and tight. So nice and tight, and you should be okay. Now earlier I had this caliper on, and I was having some issues here. So you may need to remove the black rubber boot piece that's in here if it's giving you issues, because sometimes these can get stuck inside and not make the caliper pin move. So either you can get new ones, or you can sometimes sand down the rubber and see if it works. If it doesn't work, most guys would just dispose them and just leave it at that, making sure that you lubricate this section area well. It won't cause any issues in most cases. So usually we just take them off and put it back. Because when I was trying to chuck the caliper was frozen. It wouldn't move freely. So I'm going to put the caliper back on now and have a look at it. And now it's moving. Just earlier, I wasn't able to move this back and forth, because if you put this caliper back on and this does not move freely like how it is now, then it means that there is something wrong and you may need to take it apart. So you always gotta make sure that to double check your work, make sure that the caliper is moving freely. So I'm just going to tighten up the bolts a little bit. Do the same for the bottom. You know, sometimes that small rubber boot can cause problems, so I just take them off and leave it at that. So anyhow, I was talking about earlier to make sure that you don't have an airlock inside the caliper here. So what I do is I use my fingers to squeeze out all the excess lube that's in here, because that will cause issues if there's too much lubricant. Or you could use a thin flathead screwdriver or slotted screwdriver and to pull back on the boot, and making sure that there's not that much lubricant inside there. And do the same for the bottom as well. I want to do the same for the bottom. I said earlier that if you don't do this and there's excess lubricant in there, it can cause an airlock, and basically that will cause the vehicle to pull to one side when you go for a road test after the brake job is done. So now I'm just going to remove this. Just add a little bit of anti-seize here on the hub. So that way the wheels won't seize onto the hub. I also wanted to mention that to make sure that when you install the brake caliper, make sure that the brake hose is not twisted. Make sure it runs parallel to the caliper. So because if this is twisted and you install the caliper and you don't see that, then it's very possible to have a brake failure. So make sure that this is parallel and not twisted. And I also noticed that the customer was extremely hungry, so I see some chicken bones here. So we're back in the vehicle. It said park brake maintenance mode. So you need to make sure you get out of the maintenance mode before you touch the brake pedal, because it could damage the electronic calipers. So now I want to disable the park brake maintenance mode. Now I want to exit the maintenance mode so I can pump the brake pedal and go and drive the vehicle. So what you would need to do is to pull on the lever here, and then apply the accelerator pedal and turn the ignition to on. Turn the ignition to on, and you'll see the e-brake or parking brake flashing. And so you need to turn the ignition off while it's flashing and turn the ignition back to on within 5 seconds. And then you'll see that it's flashing. It should disappear. Now it's gone. You can let go now of the lever and the accelerator pedal. I forgot to mention that as you are doing this, you need to turn the ignition off and turn the ignition back on, and then off and back on rapidly, or within 5 seconds each, and then it should disappear. So I'll show you guys again. I'll go back into maintenance mode, and I'll exit maintenance mode. Okay, I'm back now in the park brake maintenance mode. You see the warning lamp here? That means you're in park brake maintenance mode. So here's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna turn the ignition off. You pull on the lever, press down on the accelerator, and make sure you're holding these down at all times. And then now I'm gonna turn the ignition on. I can't hold the camera, so I'm going to put my phone down. So turn the ignition on, and then within 5 seconds, turn the ignition off. And then within 5 seconds, turn the ignition on. You have to do it usually while the park brake lamp, warning lamp, is flashing. Now it's not there anymore. So now I let go. I let go of the lever. I let go of the accelerator. So once the warning lights are out, then you're safe. And then it's okay to touch the brake pedal and do on whatever you need to do, or go for a road test. Just make sure you pump the pedal and you have a firm brake pedal before you take off. That's going to conclude the video today for the rear brakes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please don't forget to give it a like, and please consider subscribing to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. And I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day and take care.